into the second question now, reflecting on that resilience of the Eritrean people and the government as well. What do you think is that the key lessons picked by the Eritreans or by the Eritrean government, and then and how these lessons have been rewarding to the Eritrean people in various aspects, of course. Let's start as we did with Ato Girmays, please.
Thank you. As mentioned earlier, the hoops and bumps that the Eritrean struggle and the Eritrean national identity and also sovereignty went through is just unbelievable, especially at times when one sits back to say, look, we have traveled this road. It really becomes one very disturbing, very deep, and also very checkered in many ways, that is intertwined with success and failure. And so therefore the lessons to be learned are quite robust. And there has also been, like Binyam said, trial and errors on some aspects as well. And over time, they perfected themselves into a meaningful entity or pillar into the way we went by. For me, I think the best and number one lesson that we learned in this resilience, especially during the struggle before independence, was that we have to do this on our own. And that was a lesson learned early on, and that was also the core of our mobilization in terms of weaving into the struggle the roles of the various players in the struggle. There was the army, there was the people, there were the women who were very, very strong participants in the entire struggle, both within the army and as well as community consciousness and other promotion works. So that ability to integrate not just the organized political leadership, but also the population in the various segments was a big lesson learned, that the participation of all is the key to joint success. And that participation for all also meant that during the struggle, especially starting at that point, we had literally broken the ice around the emancipation, the gender emancipation, especially the participation of women and young people in the livelihood of the country. The second lesson that I think is learned is, yes, they might manage to break our backs, they might manage to break our legs, our limbs, but if we stand on principle, without fooling anybody, without playing any kind of internal or external politics, without trying to appease anybody, if we do it for ourselves, then we will make it. And this, I think, has reached a stage at this point in time where now the world is beginning to see, okay, so they did survive. They said no. They said they want to do it themselves. They said they want to be self-reliant. They want to be the masters of their own destinies. And yes, they're beaten left and right, but they have survived. And I think now people are beginning to appreciate this, beginning to see this. And when you look at the kind of sacrifices that Eritrea had to pay, it was really the collective sacrifices for most Africa in the neo-colonial period. Basically, even though it was silenced in many ways from being the vanguard, from being the leader in many instances, it has managed to stay strong, because the lesson learned is it doesn't matter how hard and difficult it can get, but we will achieve what we have set out to achieve. The third lesson is probably our role and also our outreach, especially to Africa, which is also my big area of interest, but also to the world. We have also learned to be quiet. The leadership is very quiet in its relations with the world. The more you talk, the more you give away what you're all up. So your ability for surprise will be curtailed the more you talk. The more you have visitors, people who come into your capital left and right, all of a sudden now start to know your weak points, your strengths, and where you stay, what you do, and everything, then they will use that to undermine you further. So that level of guarded approach to our communication outward was also another very strong lesson learned. Now, I know there are different opinions about that. Why are you quiet? Why are you not reaching out to the continent? Why are you this? But I think again with the first lesson, depending on the human capital of the Eritrean overall, was the major focus of communication, and we did a lot of our global communication through our public diplomacy, through the Eritreans. No, there is no Eritrean supporter or opposition that cannot stand and speak about Eritrea and stand for Eritrea. Almost nobody, because Eritreans, like Binyam said earlier, don't think at any level but at the national level, but at the citizenship level, at the Eritrea level. Nobody, until we are reminded that we are from this tribe or that tribe or this religion or the other, nobody remembers that. Nobody even considers that as a factor in terms of our interaction. So the communication has been strong through mobilization, through sensitization, through all kinds of collective work for domestic projects and stuff like that. So that has been, I think, a good lesson. The third and probably also very important lesson learned is every Eritrean has understood that because of the unjust sanctions, harassment, isolation, and a very well thought through destruction of the Eritrean economy, Eritreans have learned that it is us who finance the country. It is us who run our programs. It is us who are responsible for everybody back home. Yes, and for the propaganda purposes, the fact that many young Eritreans have left Eritrea, of course, the numbers are all crazy numbers. There are also very many Ethiopians, especially from northern Ethiopia, who have also gone onto this massive movement, migration under the guise of Eritrean citizens. But whatever it is, the blessing in disguise is we have more ambassadors of Eritrea that look for the interest of Eritrea and that also contribute in the livelihood and survival of the country from wherever they are. So basically, it is an Eritrean consciousness, it's an Eritrean nationalism, well, not really nationalism, but patriotism, Eritrean identity that has relocated in terms of geography, but still continues to feed into the development of the country. And I think that has been the third and very important lesson learned. And the fourth one, and which is the shaky one, still is not properly and adequately understood, and adequate mobilization has not been done by the region, is this whole point of survival at the national level through your own self-integrity and your self-reliance, but also at the same time through this collaborative partnership of regional integration to provide and push, of course, the immediate threats and securities to a wider area in which common interests and common destinies are exercised together. And Eritrea has been the one and foremost country in the Horn of Africa, as you know, that has really been pushing for regional integration. Soon after the Eritrean independence in 1991, the push to convert IGAD from a small locust agency, response agency, to that of a regional economic and political entity, was precisely to achieve that point. Maybe lessons probably need to be learned on whether that IGAD should have had everybody who geographically is located on the side of Africa, or whether we should have just focused on the Horn of Africa. But Eritrea's desire has always been a focus on the Horn of Africa, and it talked about the 5 countries whenever it talked about the Horn of Africa. Eritreans, if you have noticed, when they talk about Horn of Africa, they talk about Sudan, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Djibouti, and Somalia for all kinds of purposes and reasons, because the East African community that consisted of Tanzania, Kenya, and Uganda has always been a cohesive body for a long time. And so therefore didn't include us, including South Sudan, that is, which is a new country now, and others. So therefore the mental frame and the economic structure and the political systems and everything greatly differ from the rest of these 5 countries that are in the proper Horn of Africa. So that is the other lesson that I think we learned. We have learned that we have to coexist with neighbors. Beyond that coexistence, we also have to collaborate deeply so that there is common interests are addressed together, and that there is a higher level of integration that allows the development and dwelling in peace also of our 2 countries. To me, these are the things. The other ones, like we said earlier, it's intergenerational. Remember that it is very, very strong intergenerational linkage in terms of passing on the baton.
Thank you very much, really, Ato Girmays, for that. You have given us all the nationally, on a regional level, and then to the world, and particularly to the Horn of Africa, in various ways. What are the lessons learned, and what we can pick from that. As you yourselves have said, it's an intergenerational process, this resilience. Now, what Dr. Binia might pick as a lesson for his generation might not necessarily be what Ato Girmays, I think I really wanted to say, for some reason, honorable Girmays, or what's proper. Really, I really feel bad just saying.
That's fine.
I
That's
just
fine. Girma is fine. Don't worry.
okay, so